Before I get too far in this video, this song you hear playing right now is by Rhoads. This CD is Broken Beautiful, and she is friends with my mom, and I just recently bought this CD a few minutes ago, and just saying, you need to get it. You really need to. It is an amazing CD, and her daughter Taylor, who is, by the way, very beautiful and very brave, is fighting tubular sclerosis. So always remember Taylor in your prayers and go out and buy Rhoads CD Broken Beautiful. Today is going to be kind of an update video and telling you a little bit about what went on last week when my mom was in the hospital. I'm going to tell you about what happened before the hospital, like when she was about to be on her way, when the paramedics were here. And me, my brother, and sister were in the hallway when all this happened, so we witnessed it. There wasn't anything too bad when they came and picked her up other than the confusion. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. A lot of people ask how she's doing. And right now, she's very, very tired. Her headache is pretty much gone. And she is trying to adjust to some of the new MS symptoms. A new symptom she's discovered is numbness. Yesterday, her whole face, her nose, everywhere was completely numb. She described it to me as when your foot's asleep, when your foot's asleep, she said it was 10 times worse than that. So imagine your face being asleep, kind of, but numb. She said it felt like there were like thousands of needles going into her face. So that was really not good. A little bit about what happens when she has her migraines or headaches. That is one of the symptoms with MS, one of the symptoms that she has with her fight. She'll have bad migraines, like excruciating, horrific pain, like really, really, really bad. And what her headaches or migraines will cause for her is she can have a hard time speaking, and she will go blind in her right eye, and she also loses feeling in her right hand. So she wouldn't be able to feel this or see out of this. So yeah. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this past week. My mom had a spinal tap. Let me see, when was it? It wasn't this last Thursday, but the last Thursday, so that was about, I don't know, it was a couple days ago. And Thursday night, she developed what the doctors thought, remember that word, thought. They thought it was a spinal headache. And then Friday night, the headache just kept progressing, and she had unimaginable pain, and she was saying things that didn't make sense. And her head, she described it as like if someone was tearing her head. She actually thought that someone was tearing her head. At one point, she had told my dad to tell them to stop tearing. And at that point, that's when things got kind of scary. And she didn't know where she was. She didn't know where she lived, who her husband was, who her children were. And then that's when my dad decided to call the ambulance. So when the paramedics came, she was sitting on the couch. Her head was hurting so bad. She was able to walk out to the ambulance, and she was in there for a few minutes before they finally left for Longview. And then what they did, they got her IV started, and the paramedics were asking her when her birthday was, what her name was, and she couldn't remember any of it. And at one point she was so scared. I mean, she didn't know who those people were. She was alert, but she didn't really know anything that was going on. And at one point she started fighting the paramedics. She was trying to get out of the ambulance, and she didn't do it intentionally. She was just scared, and they were going to try to take her to Marshall because she was fighting, but then she finally calmed down, and we headed to Longview. And once they were finally at the hospital, they put her in the ER for quite a while, and I got to go in there, I guess, about an hour after she was there, and I went in with my granddad, and when we walked in there, my mom had no clue who my granddad was. She didn't know who I was, and when we walked in there, she thought my granddad was Brother Ivy, if any of you know him. And because she was kind of confused, she didn't really know what she was saying. Every doctor that came in, she called them stupid. I don't know if she said it to their face, but I was in there, and there was a doctor talking too loud, and she said, "He's stupid, he's talking too loud." And at that point, Dad was like, "Yeah, they are." And I'm just sitting over in the corner trying not to laugh, because I know it's one of the symptoms of MS, and that I'm going to hear more of that. And the doctor that she had, of course, she didn't know who anybody was. So her doctor, she thought, was Willie Robertson from Duck Dynasty, because he had the straggly beard and whatnot. And when they finally got her admitted, they admitted her to the ICU for one night, and then the next morning they got her to a neurological floor. And then Monday morning I went to the hospital with my dad. Didn't go to school that day. Hey, just kidding. I wanted to be with my mom. And when I got there, the nurse was doing her EEG, which is where they put all these different wires on your head. They put them up here, through here, and back here. And then with her migraines, this made it even worse. She was laying flat like this, and they put a light right here, a really, really bright light, and then it just starts flashing in her face. And my dad kind of recorded a little bit of it so he could see it. And you could see her eyes just starting to do this. And then my dad's phone, when he was recording it, it just started twitching also, so you could tell it has a pretty big impact. And then later that day, I guess about an hour after the EEG, they took her back for a blood patch. And if you don't know what that is where my mom had the acupuncture on her spinal cord. And what they did, they put a needle back here. They put one first, and then they put the big spinal needle, real long spinal needle, into that one. And then they took about, I think she said, 20 cc's of blood out of her arm. And what's supposed to happen is, the doctor said, when you start to feel pressure in your brain, tell me and I'll stop. And because you already have the spinal fluid in your brain that keeps your brain from moving around. And adding that will cause pressure. It feels like your head's kind of squeezing together. But she did not have that. So he got a full 20 cc's of blood into her spinal area. And she didn't feel the pressure. and they gave her some medicine that is supposed to make you go to sleep, but with her it didn't, so she was awake for most of it. And with the blood patch, when you wake up, the headache, if it was a spinal headache, it should be completely gone, but hers wasn't gone, so we know it wasn't a spinal headache. So the doctor said it was a very, very, very bad migraine. And when she was in the hospital, they gave her DHE therapy through an IV. And she had to do it for 3 days, which that's how long she was in the hospital. She went into the hospital Friday night, and then they let her out of the hospital that next Friday morning. So she was in there about a week. And let's see here. And let me tell you now a little bit about some other things she had. Most of you know now from some of my recent posts and videos that when my mom has headaches, she will have confusion. And the term for that confusion with headaches is called depolarization of the brain. And that is opposite of a seizure. And another thing she has is pernicious anemia. And that is the body's ability to absorb B12 vitamins through food or pills. So she has to take B12 through injections. And if she were to stop taking her B12 injections, she could die because her B12 levels are very, very low. So I'm keeping my eye on her. I'm making sure she's taking them. And I'm just going to put this in here. I encourage everyone out there to get their B12 levels checked. All it is a simple blood test, and you do that to make sure your B12 levels are not very, very low, and to make sure you don't have pernicious anemia. And now she has to continue to follow up with her neurologist and follow up and go through follow-up CT scans. And now I'm going to put a little bit of comedy into this video, so just brace yourself. Mom was in the hospital, and still now she'll have imaginary pity parties. And what she'll do is she'll say, "I'm out of cupcakes. I'm headed to the punch bowl." Get it? Because pity party, cupcakes, punch bowl. Okay, you get it. So that's the end of this video. Just a few reminders. Remember, go buy Amber Rhoads' CD, Broken Beautiful. Remember her daughter Taylor in your prayers. She's fighting tubular sclerosis. Get your B12 levels checked. And keep my mom in your prayers. And as always, go Team Stephanie. Bye. Go get your cupcakes in the punch bowl.